Boy. Yeah,
I know, people can't take a joke. Hey, I want to acknowledge this Xfinity mobile text. Because, yes, Steiny, if Steph, Klay, and Dre stay the same next year, can't you say, or can't you agree that J.K. Pods and TJD getting better could make a significant step forward toward getting, yes, that's the way. If you re-sign Klay and you got the big three coming back, to me what you're banking on is that the young players improve more than the older players decline. And is that possible? Absolutely, that's possible. Absolutely.
And whatever you do, you're banking.
But it's going to involve the big three reducing their minutes over the next 2 or 3 years.
How long have you and I been together and we always been talking about that and it hasn't happened?
What?
Like it's going to eventually happen.
What?
Their minute reduction. Like they're still running Curry out there like he's been his whole career.
Is it?
Yeah, we've had off-season Steiny where you and I have talked about it, even with Jordan Poole, when we thought he was going to be something, the Wiseman pick. You know, Kerr told us face-to-face before the season started a couple years ago, you know, that this season, the regular season, is going to be carried by the youngsters, and we've kind of really never saw that happen. And I want to say right now is the first time you see Kuminga, who's not in year one, Pods, TJD, and all these others, Moody, to where you're like, okay, what if they take a step forward? I could see maybe 29 minutes or 30 at the most for Curry and the rest of the gang.
So Curry's playing 2 minutes less this year per game than basically in any other year of his, like he's played 34-7 last year. He's at 32-7 now. So he's down 2 minutes a night, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but it's, 175 minutes a year, which you could say they add up, and the 2 minutes that he sits are fourth quarter minutes usually.
The Minnesota game. Yeah.
Well, no, that's why you would do it 8-5-8. To me, is you re-sign Klay because you think the young guys are, but the only issue with that is then you're still paying your older guys a fair chunk of change as you're reducing their minutes moving forward, and so you're going to have to get them more and more help. And I think the other thing here is total minutes, and this is to me what I'm gonna. So Curry this year has played more minutes than in any year since 2019.
Damn.
Is there a correlation between his second half struggles this year and the fact that he's playing more minutes now than he's played in the last 5 years, and he's been healthier now than the last 5 years in terms of that's the kind of stuff that I think you got to look at. I mean, you got to look at it. It's a good and a bad thing. The good news is Steph Curry has been healthy this year for the most part. He's played 71 games. That's a full season in the NBA. But
not his best stretch since All-Star.
But his numbers are down. They're down. They just are. So next year, what can we expect from Steph Curry? I mean, you have to start thinking about all that kind of stuff especially if you're going to give Klay a contract extension. Let's go to KC. KC's in Marin. What's up, KC? How you doing?
Gentlemen, good morning. Especially after listening to Klay on Dre's podcast earlier this morning.
All right.
He's my GOAT. He's my favorite athlete of all time.
Wow.
I can't communicate how much I respect him as a person, as a human, and most importantly as a fan, as a professional. That being said, after this year's over, please don't spend another time in a Warriors uniform unless it's the last your swan song, come sign with us, because it's going to ruin this team if we give some thank you contracts. They got to get rid of Dre's contract. They got to get rid of Klay. They got to get rid of the franchise pieces who are aged and often injured or often suspended. And I love Dre, but it's time to move on. We can't be a fan base that votes for the names on the back of the jerseys. It's always been about the Warriors. It has always been about them, from Chris Cohan and Robert Rowell and Don Nelson.
Great knowledge.
It's always been about the front of the jersey. It's always been about the front of the jersey, and we can't give thank you contracts. I love Klay. Oh, man, do I love him. But thank you for your service, and good luck.
How are you going to replace his shooting, though, specifically for Klay?
I'm gonna package Kuminga and Wiggins with Pajemski and Kuminga. Anybody who will take anything to get rid of salary and I'm going to start to get some younger players who I can trade for who will support Steph at the last maybe year, because it's time to let him go soon too. And I'm willing to have that conversation when you are, boys. Love your show. Have a great day.
Oh, he's ready for the rebuild, yeah.
Well, Joe Lacob might be ready for the rebuild if they lose the play-in. See, that to me is what it's all about at this point. If you can't get out of the play-in, then everybody who said this thing's the way, then what do you do? Because here's the one thing that I'm not saying it is Matt Steinmetz. I'm saying it is Joe Lacob, a guy I've watched now for 12 years. If you lose in the play-in, there's no way Joe Lacob is talking to Mike Dunleavy and saying, hey, Mike, I'll tell you what, man, if we could have just kept Draymond in line this year, we could have been a 5th seed, and we might have been able to, would you really do that if you were the GM? Think that way?
I wouldn't put
Warrior fans, 888-957-9570. Would you, if you get beaten this play-in game, and you look and you say, well, Draymond Green only played 52 games. He was out for 25 games, and if you give us 5 more wins there, which is rational,
all right,
then all of a sudden we're a 50-win team, and we're a 5 seed, and you know what? That's our strategy next year, and the young guys are going to get better, and maybe we could win 55 games next year. Does that sound viable to Warrior fans? And believe it or not, I'm not sitting here saying no chance, but it's risky.
Yeah, I'll say that. You asked me my thoughts on it, and Steiny, the fact that Draymond Green got his contract when he got it last year, Klay Thompson has that same credit card. I don't want to say leverage because that's not the word, but he's built, this dynasty. He was a part of it, and I expect him to be back. And Steiny, you still got a financial mess. The Rat on the Table brought to you by Atco, with or without Klay. I just don't see Dre getting brought back for 4 and Klay Thompson now, playing somewhere else, especially now. I can make the argument he's playing the best basketball to where now it's about
shooting well.
Okay, that's what he does, though. That's what he does.
You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't keep the guy in front of him on Friday who got you beat.
And he doesn't get suspended, though.
Right?
He doesn't get ran out of games. So
the game's more than just a guy.
To that caller's point, he's coming back. I believe that.
And this is where, listen, I'm not here to bash Klay, but he's never shot worse from 3, and he's never been this poor defensively. So I get it, and I'm for. Hey, I'd probably have to pay him too, because he showed me something this year in terms of his attitude and his professionalism. But this is where we've got to be wide-eyed. He's not shooting as well as he has, and his defense has declined. And if you're still looking at a guy playing 30 minutes a night, to me, it no longer guarantees that you're going to be an elite team.
Now, I can't argue with the defensive component of that, and I'll say this to that. Then why do you think he's on the court the second most in a Warrior uniform? Because I could give up 20, but if I get you 30, I'm a plus.
Right, because he's a great shooter. But he's not a great shooter like he was 3 years ago. And I get it. He's still a really good shooter, but he's at 38%. And so next year, is he going to be back up to 40? Back up to what we were accustomed to, 42, 43? Probably like that. All I'm saying is I'm just very curious with Warriors fans how they weigh in past performance, future performance, service time, and all those things are important. I mean, to me, I just look at if we're going to pay Klay for 3 years, you need to realistically assess what he is at this point. Austin's in Redwood City. What's up, Austin?
Hey, nothing much. Hey, I just want to say this, man.
Yeah.
As I was watching the game yesterday without Curry being on the court, them youngsters was thriving together yesterday. And just remember when they won remember when the Warriors won the chip with David West and Livingston and all that?
Mm-hmm.
I can see Curry, Klay, and Drake coming off the bench and thriving that way and winning the championship that way and letting these youngsters thrive. They can't go nowhere. They're going to retire as Warriors. They built this stadium here. They broke the single record of the Chicago Bulls, Curry need that 5th ring, man, to solidify the best point guard ever. Aside Michael Johnson. Magic Johnson, I mean.
Appreciate it, man.
What do you think about that?
All right. I don't think that's a championship.
Oh, man.
Like, to me, the Warriors, even right now, don't have a number 1 2 years from now on their team. A surefire number 1. So if they don't have a number 1, that means you're saying that you're still assuming Curry's going to be the number 1 in 2 years.
Yeah.
You are?
Yes.
That Curry's going to be the number 1 player on this team in 2 years.
Right now, it looks that way. Wow. And I got to, you didn't say anything for me to defend Klay Thompson, but Steiny, it's just like Curry. The dude's shooting 38%, and you are right when you say it's his worst, but when you're that stellar, 38 is still good.
Right, and it got you.
That's all you know what I mean?
Big 3,
that ain't 28.
Right. And all I'm trying to say is we can quibble about 38, still this, still that, still the other thing. The last 3 years, they were a 3rd seed, a 6th seed, and now they're going to be a 10 seed.
I got nothing for you there.
In what world would they be able, would you want them to lose? Not want them, but they lose a play-in, and we think we're going to be better next year.
Well, what if you do, here I go, I'm broken record. What if Joe Lacob says, you know what, we are the play-in, Steiny, but you know what? Wink, wink, we're really not because of the suspension. And what if they were the 5th seed, and then we could say they were actually better than last year when they finished 6th?
Do you really think Joe Lacob thinks that way? Joe Lacob.
Before Draymond Green's 4 years for a $100 million contract, I would say, hell no. But now I'm thinking, you know what, Steiny? That's the leader in the clubhouse, I believe. I really believe that.
And I don't think...
When he told Tim Kawakami, he looked as Draymond Green. I just keep going to Dre because that was the guy that I really thought, you know what? He ain't going to be able to get you 25 or 30. If he were to just catch fire, he could do a lot of great different things. But to me, I just find it would be an eyesore. Here I go.
So what if they lose? So
Joe say the bottle stopped spinning on Klay's re-up.
Joe
gave Dre 25 for 100.
But Joe Lacob made it clear if they don't win a play-in game, there's going to be big changes. Yeah. Like that's what I mean. I mean, you go to L.A. and you get beat by the Lakers in the play-in game. At that point, like, I get it. I just sat here and said, you know what? I think you got to pay Klay.
Yeah.
But I don't want to pay Klay if we lose in the play-in game. I just don't. And Joe Lacob indicated that I don't know. I mean, to me, it's almost pathetic in a way if they were to lose the play-in and you say, well, not you, but people say, well, next year's going to be better. Why? Why is it going to be better?
Because your youngsters are
the last
older.
2 years should have been better too, and they weren't. So why would you just think, we're going to be better next year when each of the last 2 years you were worse than you thought you would be?
Because I'm banking on one of the big 3 to remain